Yeah, so one thing that I read was like you do lose your taste and smell, and definitely in the last 2 days. Oh, and I'm starting to feel a really weird ringing in my ears actually. That's literally only been in the last couple of, probably the last hour. So let's see if I can taste this. Mm. Very bland. I had coffee earlier too. It's also not the same. Let's test if I can taste this. I mean, it's orange juice is one of the sweetest things. Like it's so unusual. Like you have this like it's like you feel the sweetness of it, but then there's no aftertaste. There's no yeah. It's like it's so hard to describe. Like, but yeah, it's not a discomfort or anything. It's just you just don't taste it. Like it's weird. So I have been sent a kit of like a testing stuff to keep up to date with yeah, my fever and heart rate, all that stuff by the RPA. And geez, my place is a mess. I really should use this time to probably clean up. Yeah, maybe in one of the following videos you'll see it clean. Yeah, look, I'm gonna go through the process. It looks like we have to put these patches under our arm, and then it links to an app. It's really cool. There's all these instructions of how to do that. Again, I send a lot of gratitude towards the healthcare professionals who have set all this up. So we are very fortunate to be in a country where we have access to all this stuff. So I am definitely grateful for that. So yeah, let's see how we go and see what the updates are.
So if you flip your piece of paper over that you logged in with, there's got 2 photos of the patch on the underarm.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want you to take the backing off and stick the patch under your right arm.
I just washed my left arm.
You know? Too funny. Synchronization.
All right, give me 1 sec. Sorry.
Yeah, okay. And he washed under his left arm.
Okay, yep.
Okay, you're stuck on?
Yep.
Okay, so now feel where that little button was.
Yep.
And press it in and you'll feel it click.
Yep.
Okay, great. All right, so now what I want you to do is go back to your app and just refresh the page by pulling the screen down.
Okay. Oh, yep, it's working.
Yep, enter your actual temperature.
Am I to keep my arm up or put it back down?
No, put your arm back down. It'd be a bit uncomfortable.
I wasn't sure. I'm glad I'm providing a bit of comedy for you guys today.
No, it's all good. Yeah, so no, you can pop your arm down. Yeah, so it'll stay on all the time, even when you're sleeping. The only time you can take it off is when you're having a shower.
Okay.
So take it off when you're having a shower. You can use the back. Okay, so it opens up like a bulldog clip.
Yeah.
So you can choose either your index finger or your middle finger. And I want you to put your finger in with your nail side down. So your nail's pointing towards the floor.
Yeah.
Or pump, yep. And you're going to put the device on with the little button on, so like facing you.
Okay, yep.
Yeah, and just press that little button, and you should get some green, like a green sensor going up and down.
Yeah. But you said my index finger, right? Or so I, in amongst sending, my video out there, I've got crazy responses back, and one of them was someone who I have not seen in a long time, and he's also tested positive. So I'm about to give him a call. It's been probably a good part of 7-8 years since I've seen this guy. So we're gonna share similarities here. Let's see. Hey
buddy, what's happening, man?
How are you, man? Long time no see.
Thank you. You've you've reached the Corona hotline. I'm going to direct your call.
Oh man, I wish it was in better times that we could catch back up. But
I know, right?
look, if anything this can teach us,
Crazy.
it's we're all connected, aren't we?
That's it. I mean, I've spent more time on Skype with my family in the past week than I have, in the past few years.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And it's like you want to strangle him because of how much time you spent with him, but then you realize you can't touch him. Hello, everybody. I am so overwhelmed with the response I've gotten from, throwing myself online and sharing my experience with everyone out there. I'm blown away by the amount of empathy, love, care, compassion, and kindness that has come from all of you. And I just want to start this whole video off by just saying, I'm overwhelmed. And it's sort of a weird feeling because at this point, as most of you know, I've only really experienced like mild symptoms, and the worst has definitely been my back, and I'm pretty tired because I haven't slept much at all, and that's why I probably look tired. Also, I'm getting old, apparently, turning 30 last week. But yeah, look, I've just simply, at this point, it kind of just feels like, you get the flu or something, and then all of a sudden all these people are sending you hundreds of thousands of messages, and it's been, like I said, overwhelming. And I appreciate every last message. I have seen all of them, and some of them I haven't responded to yet because I've been on the phone nonstop to everybody who I can be today, and also just trying to have chances to just relax as well. But I want you all to know how much I love your messages, and if it's taken me a bit of time to get back to you, then please excuse me, but I will get back to every single one of them. It's been kind of crazy today with the experience of everything that's happening, and amongst all the messages that I've got from people, apart from the obvious showing care and everything, there's been a lot of questions and things, so I want to answer some of the questions for everyone so that you can kind of be a little bit more informed yourself and be a lot more cautious and prepared for what you may need to do to, avoid being in my situation. But yeah, like before what I was saying, it's been sort of weird. The symptoms I've been getting kind of just feel like a flu or like a cold or something like that, and then I'm getting all these messages from people, and it sort of feels like, I'm sure it's what my dad experienced when he went through cancer. It's just like, I'm not dying, I'm not going to die, or at least nobody really knows that answer. But look, at this point, my big concern and one huge thing I want to portray with these videos, and hopefully through just the experience and the story, it can be somewhat entertaining as well as educational. I want you all to just be really aware of your decisions, because it's not a matter of someone young and fit and healthy like me. It's more about other people who are more vulnerable, and a huge stressor that I am experiencing right now is my exposure I had to my parents. And I'm playing a very dangerous waiting game to see whether they do show any symptoms or anything like that, because at this point you can't really, well, you can, but you can't really get tested unless you actually show symptoms. And look, I'm not a doctor. Once again, I'm not saying I'm any sort of doctor. I'm only going off my experience of what I've seen in the clinic when I was there, the things doctors said to me and nurses, and my research and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it's been a great day, and I've shared some little captures of experiences I've had today. So keep watching after I finish talking to see a few little bits and pieces. One really big question I think a lot of people have asked me was, how did I get it? And I'll tell you this story really quickly of how I presume I got it. It's like a 99% chance. So I had my 30th birthday on March 13, and a good friend of mine invited me to go to a party on March the 15th. and this was a couple of days after my actual birthday party and stuff. And so I was like, you know what, it's my 30th birthday weekend. I haven't really gotten out and socialized much in the last couple of months. I've been kind of doing my own thing in my own isolation. And so I was like, you know what, like I think I will do that. So I decided to go with my friend. Went to a party, and it was out in Bondi. And so I went to his house first, and just like any other sort of house party, everyone's kind of having some drinks, socializing and whatnot, just like any young normal 30-year-old would do. And then we went to the party, and so it was at Bondi Pavilion. It was just sort of a dance party thing. So I went to that, all innocent like, and it was a great night. I'm glad I went. It was a lot of fun. This was like a day or two before the government had put in place the 500 or more, for outdoor things, and I think it was 100 or more for indoor things. I'm not sure, but for whatever reason, at that point, it was 13 days ago now, but it feels like 13 weeks ago. Everything's just gone everything's moving so rapidly. So yeah, I mean, like the party was still held. No one's breaking any laws at this point. I knew what was going on, I guess, with the coronavirus, but I didn't really understand it as deeply as what it really is and how fast and aggressive it actually is. So I'm at this party, and it's a lot of fun, just with friends and such. The week kind of goes on, and I get to the weekend where I went up to my parents' place and recorded a podcast with my dad. Some of you should go have a listen. Actually, the topic of it was sort of talking about everything to do with this situation we're in, not so much. And so yeah, after recording the podcast with Dad, I stayed at my parents' place on the Central Coast for just the night on Saturday night. And look, this is like, I had no idea at all about what's happened or the fact that I may be potentially carrying it or anything. I'm showing zero signs at this point. I'm doing my social isolating like other people have been doing, but not, I mean, it's my parents, right? So it's like, we don't really know how, well, does that mean I have to see nobody, or is it okay to see my parents, or what's like essential contact? And everybody doesn't really understand this social distancing thing. Anyway, so like I went there, and it was when I was pretty much driving back from their place, almost like within a couple of hours, I got a message from my brother saying, with a link to an article for a few cases being tested positive from that party. And then that's when I started to panic. And anyway, so sort of long story short, I found out that there were people at the house party that I was at who were also at the party who got tested positive. And yeah, so things have kind of been a little bit out of control since then. So as soon as I got home from my parents on the Central Coast to my house in Sydney, I called the hotline and asked them, I told them the whole situation and everything and what I need to do. They told me to completely self-isolate alongside my two brothers who I live with, alongside my parents, because they're pretty much the only people who I actually had contact with. So that's been happening. The very next day, which was Monday, I think the 22nd of March. So now we're looking at like it was the 23rd. So 8 days after, that's when I started to get a bit of a brain fog. I would say sort of like dizziness, lightheadedness. It wasn't severe, just sort of mild. So I started to go, okay, maybe it's a coincidence. Maybe I'm just conjuring something up in my head. And then overnight, I developed more like nasal congestion and probably more nasal congestion and definitely a lot more of a heavier head. And then the next day was, and by the way, I did call the hotline again that day and asked them if I needed to be worried about that. And they kind of did a symptom check and they were like, no, I think you're kind of okay. The very next day, I woke up with like serious pain in my body, like body aches. And then I called them again, and that's when we did more of a symptom check. And they also, I think at that point, lifted they got more tests in Australia, so they lifted the amount of restrictions around getting tests done. So I qualified to go get the test done. So I live like half a kilometer from RPA, so I raced up there, went straight to the the testing clinic, and there surprisingly wasn't that many people there. And they're prepared to pretty much take on an onslaught of people. I guess we're hoping that it doesn't get to that, but I think that they're preparing for the worst at this point. But yeah, so went in there, had the test done. They took all my details, details in terms of like body stuff, health things, as well as logistic things like where have I been, who have I seen, all that stuff. Where do I think I got it? Then they swab you. They put like a thing in your nose, and then they put a thing in your throat. It's pretty quick, very uncomfortable, and tell you to go home, keep isolating, and the test will come back in 72 hours. And so I went home, did all that. The next day, which was last night, I got a call at about 10 p.m., which was the doctor telling me that it came back positive. So that's the story of how I got it. 99% sure, obviously, that it came from the party because I didn't really go anywhere else. And yeah, it's a big concern, and I have a lot of thoughts around all that, about maybe we should have locked down way earlier than we have, and all that, political stuff of what should or shouldn't be happening. But yeah, I think the point of my vlog here is to not really go pointing fingers at what we should or shouldn't have done, or blame people or anything like that. My purpose of this blog is to come from the bottom of my heart to share with you knowledge and information to help you make good decisions now moving forward for you and your community. And if everyone does this at a micro scale, in the macro, we can really beat this and stay ahead of it. So that's my sort of story. Some people have been asking me about treatment. Like a few people are concerned about their health. They've kind of said that they've had similar symptoms. My 100% advice here is to call the COVID hotline. So you can call the hotline. It's like, where's the number? It's in my phone somewhere, but just Google COVID hotline. It'll come up straight away. It's a 1-800 number. They're very informed, and they do symptom checks, and they ask you all sorts of questions to help you in your situation. They're equipped with lots of knowledge, and I think I called them like 3 or 4 times this week every day just to sort of keep updated with it, because I was sort of starting to worry every day. My advice is to definitely do that. No need to panic if you're starting to feel unwell. It's again, for younger people, it's very mild, so far anyway, from what I've experienced. Like, you need to isolate yourself straight away if you have any symptoms at all. You 100% have to isolate yourself. If you don't have any symptoms right now, you also need to isolate yourself. And that means, and I feel like I'm the Prime Minister here telling you guys, but seriously, when you go through the experiences now of actually having it, a lot of stigma, maybe some shame, guilt, all that stuff that comes with it, and the actual bodily ailments that I'm now experiencing, just do it, guys. Like, it's a sacrifice. It's a huge sacrifice right now, but it needs to happen. And think of it this way, like, I truly believe right now with what's going on, it is one of the most selfish things to go out into the community and do things that are not essential to you. You are putting everyone at risk. And I say that with a lot of love. I don't mean this to point any fingers. I don't know anyone who's doing it or anything like that. I'm sure there's hundreds of people out there doing it, but just think of it like that and really understand that the most selfless thing you can do is make a sacrifice and stay at home. Only go out if you really need to, and just be really smart about everything you do right now. Be patient, be really patient, and spend the time at home with loved ones or connecting through technology to reach people that you love. I was able to do that today, and I'll show you some snippets in this vlog as well about that. Be innovative, find ways to connect with people in different ways. For now, it's a sacrifice, but we'll get through it. Also spend this time like trying to get in touch with more of your spiritual side, your personal journey, your purpose in life. Reassess what's important, what's not important to you. The amount of friends that I have and family who seem to always be kind of busy, run down. Well, now's your chance to stop. So take a breath. So that's kind of, some of the questions that people have been asking me. One really beautiful thing that actually happened over the last 24 hours was I was reached out to by Jonathan Pittock, who he used to be in the poker community, let's just say, and he was one of the tournament directors, and he spent the last 6 years working on his Chinese medicine doctorate, and he so beautifully reached out to me and has offered all of his services to me to really help me through this situation. And we had such a fantastic phone call where he really dug deep and gave him a lot of his time and energy and resources into trying to help me. He was kind enough to let me record it, and so I can share it with you guys. So I've left that as the last part of this vlog. If anyone's interested in listening to that, by all means, we're not doctors by any, I suppose, health. Well, what do you call it? A government health, scheme or anything. I don't know what the right word is, but yes, we definitely want to do the best we can to help anyone out there. And if our knowledge and experiences can do that, then we're very willing to share that. So thank you, Jonno, for reaching out to me. He's so very, very graciously rushed himself to a post office to send me a box of things late on a Friday afternoon to try and get them to me as soon as possible in terms of herbal medicines, teas, broths, all that just beautiful stuff. So I've left that at the end of this vlog, for those who are interested. But look, I think I'll leave it at that for now. I send my love and kindness out to all of you, and again, thank you so much for reaching out. Stay safe, stay indoors, and just try and find ways to be optimistic, loving, caring, to yourself, to your family, to the people leading our country, to the healthcare professionals, to everyone. I send so much gratitude and love. Yeah, go for it. Like, they'll be able to hear you.
Okay. What was I saying? So, look, we come at it from a different understanding, right? So, the contemporary Western approach is, let's look at this virus, let's identify exactly what that is under a microscope and try and treat that, right? So they go after and attack that virus. They don't have anything specific for this virus, so what they do is they throw a bunch of antivirals at it, right? They're the tools that they have. We have a little bit of a different approach. So we look at, rather than the virus, we look at how the body responds, right? So, because the body has similar response patterns to different viral infections, right? So if you want to look at it that way, there's no word for virus in Chinese medicine. It's more along the lines of, look, I'll preface what I'm about to say by saying it's an old medicine that comes from an older understanding of the universe before things like microscopes were developed, right? So, we don't think in terms of bacteria and virus and fungus and these sort of things. We think about evil energy, pestilential chi, evil energy, or external factors. So, we have 8 principles of our medicine. One of them is the relationship between internal and external. So this would be a classic case of an external invasion into the body, right? You may or may not have some underlying internal deficiencies, which is where a lot of the elderly and chronically ill, that's why they're having more trouble in fighting the illness, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it's an external attack. So a lot of the formulas that are being used, particularly in China, to treat this condition are formulas that, resolve the exterior, so try and get rid of whatever exterior pathogen's going and strengthen the interior at the same time. So, so that's that. So we'll get a little bit off topic. So
no, it's not off topic at all.
Where you're at, it's all about, for us, it's all about progression of how it enters the body, right? Because, there's a school of thought in Chinese medicine that believes that there's 6 levels that the pathogen will come into the body through. So the first level is what they call the Tai Yang level, or the Great Yang, right? So, Yang being the energy of, expansion and outwardly mobile. So as things start to come in, Yang is the surface level. The bottom level would be Yin, the deepest level. So at that surface level, your body's trying to fight it. Okay, so your body's defensive mechanism, or its Wei Qi, defensive Qi, it takes fight, and it sits down and says, okay, we're gonna have a crack at trying to get rid of whatever's invading the body.
Yeah.
Right? Now, in Chinese medicine terms, that role is governed by the function of the lung. This particular pathogen that's coming in is pretty virulent on the lung, right? So it's the first thing that comes in. You breathe in the air, it gets stuck in your throat, it starts to attack your throat, right? So the pathogen comes in that way, and then it gets in, and eventually it'll get down into the stomach, maybe, things like that. So where you're at in your progression right now, I believe, in my opinion, as a doctor of Chinese medicine, is it hasn't quite penetrated deep for you yet. So there's a lot that can be done. As it gets deeper and deeper and deeper, particularly as the functions of the body start to be corrupted, things like being able to transport fluids and transform them into something you can use, they get corrupted and you get a build-up of phlegm, right?
Yeah.
So, that's when it starts to, and then, things like pneumonia can develop, if you want to put a term on that. We would just call it, phlegm in the lung.
Yeah.
So once that happens, it gets a little bit harder for our herbal medicine it's not impossible, but it's much more difficult for our medicine to be of use then. So things like, respirators and ventilators, they're perfect medicine then. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So in terms of where you're at now, I think there's a bit that we can do in terms of trying to, slow down and maybe even try and halt and hold up the progression of it before it becomes stronger.
Yeah, because look, I mean, my fear, and it sounds like you know a fair bit about it, obviously. My fear is some of the things that I've searched. Sorry, I keep moving around because the place is a mess. I need to clean up the place.
You're in quarantine. You do whatever you need to.
Yeah, oh, man, it's starting to feel like a prison cell. Yeah, so I think...
I get it, mate. I get it. Like, look, you're at a really strong advantage because you're young, you're fit, you're relatively otherwise healthy. There is a little bit of evidence going around that blood type may affect it. What blood type are you?
Oh, good question. I wouldn't have a clue.
Don't freak out about these things. Like, I know this is, it's easy for me to say, but the more you're fearful, the more your body releases a chemical called cortisol into your blood, right?
Yeah.
Now, cortisol is the fear and stress hormone. Now, what that does, I take a daily dose of cortisol to suppress my immune system. I had that kidney transplant in 2011.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I take it to stop my body. I suppress my immune system a little bit. The doctors have prescribed it for me. I've been on it for 8 years. And it's to suppress my immune system so that I don't kill the kidney that my dad gave me, right? So now, that's a synthetic version of cortisol. It's called prednisolone. It's a corticosteroid, right?
Okay.
So cortisol is a steroidal hormone. Now, your body releases it naturally itself in times of, when you're in fight or flight, when your body's got to run from the saber-toothed tiger, that's what it does. All right, let's dump some cortisol and get going, okay?
Yeah.
The issue we have is that we have saber-toothed tigers, metaphorically speaking, coming at us from all angles at the moment, right? So it's hard to stay, peaceful and in the moment and all that sort of stuff.
But I think paying the rent is the saber-toothed tiger of the 20th century, is it not? Or 21st century, I should say, yeah.
Could be, mate, could be. Yeah, so look, just do your best to try and remain calm. And look, in my experience, the best way to do that is to figure out what actions you can take and put them into place. Control what you can control. You know what I mean? So you can control, how much you Google and research and the people that you talk to and all that. But also, like we were talking earlier, you're trying to frame a bit of a positive message for people at this time, which I think is fantastic, mate. Anything I can do to help you, I will. So look, we might get into a bit more I want to know a bit more about how it's progressed. So you're effectively, in terms of symptomology manifesting, you're about day 5 of that. So you had an incubation period, it looks like, of about 8 days.
Yeah.
And then your symptoms started coming about 5 days ago.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Monday was the first day. It's Friday now, so...
So you got a little bit lightheaded, a little bit of brain fog, right? So, and the nasal congestion started to come. So, look, in our medicine, that's kind of already that, we think of brain fog being like an insubstantial form of what we call dampness, which is sort of like the precursor to phlegm. Now, the Chinese medicine concept of dampness is when things, when things start to shut down and don't get, like I said, transformed and changed into different things, that rather than, the food you eat, the air you breathe, that gets mixed together into, in our medicine, qi and blood, or energy and blood that flows around the body that your body can use, right? So when that process becomes corrupted, it's no longer a fine substance your body can use. It becomes a bit heavy, and then it gets a bit thicker and it becomes more damp, and then eventually it congeals and becomes phlegm, right?
Right.
So that first stage, that sort of, a bit of lightheadedness, a bit of brain fog, that's a little bit of that showing up. The brain fog's like that sort of, well, fog is like dampness that hasn't, fully manifested into a cloud, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So what we're going to try and do is prescribe some herbs for you that'll start to break that process up. So then you progress to the next day, body pains, started in your legs and back. Where were you at? So at most, you still don't have a cough, right?
Yeah, no cough, no pain. I had there was one moment 2 days ago where I felt something in my chest, but it was so light and it kind of came and just disappeared. Like, I don't know if it was something I'd conjured up or not, because as you talked about before, your brain can create that through the fear and everything, and then yeah. So, but yeah, other than that, no cough. In terms of the actual breathing, look, I've had trying to breathe through my nose is it can be difficult, so I do have to take breaths through my mouth. However, that's not overly unusual for me. Because I'm susceptible to, I think, allergies and things like that.
Show me your tongue again, mate. Yeah, okay. How's your digestion been before all this happened? Like, did you get issues with bloating or any of that sort of stuff after you eat certain meals?
Yeah. I mean, I try and eat pretty much vegan as much as possible, and definitely vegetarian.
Right.
I've been vegetarian for a good part of 4 or 5 years. But in terms of veganism, look, I mean, I eat chocolate and things like that here and there, and it always will have an effect on me. But because I'm human, I give in every now and then.
It's starting to make a bit more sense too, mate. Because when you look at things, look, I'm similar to you, mate. I eat meat maybe once or twice a week now, if I'm lucky. I just find it's better for my system. However, I will say, in Chinese medicine, let me preface this: there's no morality, so to speak, in terms of right or wrong. There's only really action and consequence, right? So, if you do this, this will happen. So, or if you need this, this is the best way to get that. Now, that lightheadedness can be from a range of different things without jumping off the deep end in terms of diagnosis for you. But one of the things it can be from is what we call a deficiency of your blood. So it's not necessarily the volume of the blood, like you don't have enough if you need another litre of blood, but it's more so the quality of your blood. Now, blood-rich foods are good at building blood, right? So, things like bone broth and red meats and all these sort of things, they're great. So if you're blood deficient, ideally we'd like you to eat those sort of foods and then you'll build up some blood. Best way to get blood is to eat blood. Now, more of a Vedic way to think about it would be the morality that would sit behind that, the philosophy of ahimsa, do no harm. So,
well, I had a blood test done probably about 6 months ago, I think it was, because my mum was slightly concerned about B12 and such in from being sort of vegan, and everything in all my tests came back great, except B12, I was low in B12, and so now I take B12 supplements. But everything else was high and flying, and nothing's really changed in my diet since then.
Yeah. Okay, good. So you probably had this little bit of underlying Qi and blood deficiency, right? A deficiency in energy and blood. So It seems like your digestive process, the ability to, turn food into energy and blood that you can use, was already a little bit underdone. So that makes you a little bit more susceptible, if that makes sense. Not to freak you out, just trying to explain your case.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah.
Whenever I talk to patients, I mean, you're more of a mate than a patient, I guess, but it's the first time I've treated you, so I like to sort of tell them why I'm thinking about it the way I do, and try and get them to engage with the medicine, because it helps in terms of when I say, okay, so we'd love you to eat these sort of foods now. They'll go, oh, okay, that's right. So I should avoid damp foods. So damp foods, you definitely don't want to have. This is, in Chinese medicine terms, all the information that's coming out of China, and there's a lot, depending on which study you read, and Chinese studies are notoriously biased, right? So I'll preface that, but there's a lot of information coming out of China about what they've done in the last 8 weeks to treat, their patients that are there. They have so many cases, and so the hospitals are overwhelmed. They've had to use Chinese medicine. They just have to. So
yeah.
And they haven't really been success with it, right, according to the studies. But anywhere between sort of 85 and 90% of patients are getting some form of herbal medicine. So what they're all saying is that this is a damp pathogen. Yeah. Now, whether that's damp congealing with heat, or damp with some cold, or however it manifests, the underlying thing is it's damp, which is obviously because it's causing pneumonia, right? Which is phlegm. So
Well, yeah, and
it has to be that. Now, phlegmy foods that you should avoid, you should not be eating at the moment, is anything dairy, cheese. If you think about the substance of cheese, it's like sticky and
yeah, I haven't eaten cheese for like a good part of 3 years.
right?
Yeah,
You don't want them.
yeah.
Bananas are the other one, so stay away from those.
I had that for breakfast. All right, no bananas.
Yeah. All right, well, that'll be your last one for a while, mate. Don't
Shit,
eat those.
I love bananas.
Now, obviously, citrus fruit, right? So we think about vitamin C, yeah? So citrus fruit is the number one thing that's going to cut through that dampness and phlegm for you. So load up on all the citrus you can. Lemon, oranges, limes, whatever you've got around. So the herbal formula that I'm going to send you will have a lot of that in there.
Okay.
Some immature, bitter oranges and things like that, mandarin peel, things. I'll send you some teas that you can drink. I'll send you a herbal formula that you will use. So we'll get a bit more into the diagnostics in a minute. But, so now, clear quality fluids is where you want to be.
Yeah.
So water being in that, yeah. Avoid things that are going to stress your system out, right? You already don't eat meat, but that puts a little bit of stress on the system. So in this term, bone broth would be a pretty good thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you were going to eat meat, I'm saying, but you don't. So, so things like caffeine, number one, right? So try and avoid your coffee if you drink that. Refined sugars, all these things that put a little bit of stress on the system. Nicotine, caffeine, amphetamine, anything ending in E, right, is not your friend at the moment. Although I will say the chief ingredient in one of the herbs they're using in China is what we call ma huang, or ephedra root, or ephedrine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just because of its decongestant capabilities. So, if you look at what Sudafed was when I was a kid growing up in the 80s and 90s, it was just on the counter and people used it when they got a stuffy nose, and it was really effective because it had a synthetic version of this herbal root in there. Unfortunately, we can't use it in Australia. So, otherwise I'd send you some, mate. So not saying to run out, can't get in Sudafed. But,
because I've gotten because of the pain, I think and some people might suggest, can you take ibuprofen or whatever, and like there's a lot of things out there about not taking certain types of paracetamol and things because it aggravates the virus.
I read something. Yeah, I read something today saying that the reason the death rate's so high in Italy is because of the ibuprofen, right? Now, if you think about it, now I'm not a chemist, right? But I've done a lot of pharmacology, and if you look at what they do, so ibuprofen is an anti-inflammatory, right? So it's going to reduce inflammation, yeah? Now, in our medicine, inflammation is heat, so things accumulate and they get stuck and then heat builds up, yeah? So things like arthritis would be a perfect example of that. But it doesn't necessarily, it's not designed to bring down heat. What it's designed to do is reduce the swelling, right? Whereas something like paracetamol is what they call an antipyretic, which means it brings down heat. Yeah, so if you're trying to get fevers down and things like that, paracetamol is the better medicine. Again, not a pharmacist, not a GP, not prescribing for you, just giving you my knowledge you can have it, right?
Yeah.
But, ibuprofen would be a bad go-to anyway, really, if you understood. But every culture's different, like I was in Nepal last year and everybody gobbled ibuprofen there, and it was just over-the-counter medicine. Whenever anybody got anything, that's what they went to. When in certain situations, paracetamol is a better favourite. So stay away from it. It looks like the anecdotal evidence says don't take it, so you're better off not taking it.
Yeah.
Having said that, like I texted you earlier, load up on the vitamin C, mate. Like already, I'm immunocompromised, right, because of the immunosuppressants I'm on to save my kidneys. So for the last couple of weeks, I've been taking high doses of vitamin C, echinacea, and a couple of herbal medicine remedies to build up immunity.
Yeah.
Thankfully, touch wood, I'm pretty good. But I take, just so you know, 1,000 milligrams a day, 3 times a day. So I take 3,000 milligrams at the moment as a prevention. Yeah. So look, vitamin C, again, it's not a prescription, but a suggestion would be it's water soluble. It's going to pass through your system quite easily if you have too much. That's why this turns yellow when you're on high doses of vitamin C, right?
Yeah.
The worst thing it would do to you is give you a bit of a loose bowel, yeah, from my understanding. So I'd just load up, mate. I'd probably be taking somewhere about 3 or 4 times the dose I am if it was me, if I had it. This is what I would do. So you can take this knowledge and do with it what you like.
Yeah.
But like I said, if it was me, I'd be taking somewhere between, 2.5 to 4 or 5 grams, 2 or 3 times a day.
Yeah.
Just to try and keep it in your system. If you go to the toilet and you pee bright yellow all the time, you're pretty well suited. Your body's using enough of it that it doesn't need any more, right? So you let that be your guide.
Okay.
And just stay really well hydrated, mate.
Yeah, cool. All right, man.
And make sure you eat. Your body needs food, mate. Like, you're not going to feel like eating, but your body needs food. It needs quality food. So, orange root vegetables, green leafy vegetables. So think of things like sweet potatoes, carrots, pumpkins, these sort of things. They're really, really high in vitamin C, really rich in compounds that aid your immune system. Yeah. On the flip side of that, you want to be having broccoli. Again, super high in vitamin C, super high in things that are going to improve your immune system. Look, people should be doing this stuff anyway, right? Like,
well, this is my hope as well.
I've been encouraging people to do this for the last couple of weeks, mate.
Yeah.
So things that are easy and soft and easy to digest for you. So just if you've got a slow cooker, just whack stuff in the slow cooker or put it in a pot, make things slowly. I'll send you a couple of recipes that you can use.
So the tricky thing right now is that because I'm positive, I have to be isolated to my bedroom, and so my 2 brothers who I live with, they are having to bring meals for me, and then they're probably Uber Eats #1 customer, so it's not going to be not the greatest when it comes to cooking these organic sort of meals. So yeah.
Well, they're going to have to be all in too, mate. They're going to have to be all in. You're in a war, mate. You're in a war. You need your family on your side, and you're fortunate enough that you've got them with you. There's a lot of people that don't. It's a risk for them, so they need to change their habits too, mate. Get them on the phone. I'll fucking talk to them because they've got to be like, you're a young, fit dude. You're probably going to recover, right? But it doesn't mean that you're out of the woods, And like you said, you want to be as. And it's also how you come out the other side of it, how well you are when you come out the other side, and how well your brothers are. Let this be a chance for the whole nation to stop and focus on their health.
I hope so.
Even if you aren't sick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I hope so, definitely. And not just from a health point of view, but many other points of view. I think it's a wake-up call for everyone.
Absolutely.
All right, mate. Well, I really appreciate you giving me this time, and I've always been interested in natural ways, and I've never really gone down the Chinese medicine. Always kind of wanted to, but I'll do it tomorrow. But tomorrow's now, so.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, I appreciate it so much, man. So.